Hi, everybody. Welcome to ZealZaddy. This is our premiere episode of Story Talk. It is a TTRPG talk show to talk about things like hot topics, becoming better players, marketing, like anything that I can think of that we can really use to elevate the creator experience, the player experience, the GM or DM experience. I'm super happy we have a bunch of cool guests here tonight, although I will say one of the guests we were going to have, we'd announced and everything, is sick, so won't be here tonight. So Alphinius Goo, we hope you get better, and we'll see you in another episode down the road. But you can follow ZealZaddy everywhere at ZealZaddy. We're on most of the socials. We're on TikTok at ZealZaddy RPG. Damn it. But we'll get that fixed soon enough. So this particular episode is on small creators and the fractured OGL world and the aftermath. We're now in the aftermath of the OGL war, or whatever we want to dub it. It's causing changes and it's causing dissent, but it's also causing discussion that I think is maybe, if not cathartic, at least healthy for the industry. So I'm really happy that some things are happening. It's too bad we all had to go through it, but sometimes you have to go through the fire to get to the other side and maybe get to something even better. I want to also say that during our intermission, I'm going to be running a little video that kind of allows you to see some upcoming and currently running Kickstarters that I found and I liked, and some people sent me material. If you have a Kickstarter coming up or one that you have running live, I'd love to add it to the next show. We'll have a 10-minute intermission, and I hope you stick around and watch them. I'll have links to all of the Kickstarters, so if you want to check them out during that 10-minute intermission, you can go, click on them, go see what they are, and all that stuff. So, the creator and DMing community basically stood up against corporate bullies. That I'm really proud of this community for. It was a shocking moment that we all went through, and watching WotC basically crumble under the weight of D&D Be Gone, which was a powerful statement. You know, the moment was beautiful if you're a part of the rebel cause and not part of the Empire. I'm sure on the Empire side, there was a lot of discussion about some crazy stuff. So we're going to talk about what that means for small creators now, where we're going to go, how they're going to survive, what they're going to make, who they're going to be bringing along with them, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully WotC's learned some things. Honestly, I don't want WotC to go away. I think it's good to have a big player in the market. I would just like to have more big players, and maybe that one be a little bit smaller. You know, there's something uncomfortable with a market that is, you know, where one company has an 80% market share. You have to always be concerned about that kind of stuff. So what happens next for DMs, third-party publishers, and all that? If you want to chat and put a question in there, please type question in all caps and put your question in. It'll just make it a little bit easier for me to find them. I don't have an admin helping out with this tonight, so we'll really bring it along quickly. So let's bring on our awesome guests. All right, so we have 4 of the 5 here tonight. Hello, everybody. Why don't we go around and let everybody introduce themselves? I guess I don't know if you can see on the screen, but Jess, I'm going to have you go first.
Hi, I am Jess Pendley. I'm one half of Underground Oracle Publishing, third-party tabletop role-playing game publisher. You can find me on all the socials at Jess Pendley. Yeah, I'm really psyched to be here.
All right, Lewis.
Hello, I am Lewis Porter Jr. I'm a third-party publisher. I've been involved for way too long, going on 25 years. Ooh, when I say that, it sounds crazy. I provide artwork, campaign worlds, advice, and some attitude to the whole industry as a whole. So I'm always up for an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I will say Lewis puts out some really amazing short form YouTubes that way too few people see, and they are brilliant minds going on in them. Well, his mind, it's a brilliant mind that he's dropping, wisdom to all of us all the time. Sean.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sean O'Donovan. I'm the creative director over at Paradise Productions. We're a variety actual play streaming channel. So we do a lot of D&D stuff and other things. And yeah, that's who we are. You can find us at Paradise Pro in some places and Paradise Prod in other places.
All right. And Matty P.
Hello, how you going? My name's Matty P. I'm in Australia. I run a YouTube channel where we talk about Durgans and Durgans. Mainly for beginners, we cover the starter set quite a lot. But I'm interested in this OGL stuff because I also publish a bunch of stuff to my Patreon. I'm a professional typesetter in my day job and then Dungeon Master in my night job. So it's interesting. It's an interesting publishing landscape. You can find all my stuff over at Hey It's Matty P. And I'm one of those lucky ducks that got that tag everywhere.
I mean, we were talking about that on camera before. Like, it is terrible when the name that you've picked isn't available on some platform you want to get on or need to get on. Mm-hmm. It is a painful moment when you get there and it's not available. So this is a roundtable discussion show. The idea is to talk about each week a specific topic. This is on our fractured OGL world. So in preparation, I prepared some questions, but I'd love to see questions come from chat. I'd love to, I'm sure the four of you have some questions for each other based on the few minutes you've had a chance to meet each other, but knowing what each of you do now. So I'm going to start with the first question concerning the OGL and where small creators are. Was it too little, too late?
Was what too little, too late?
The release of all the material to the Creative Commons, and then
their response,
and dropping in their WotC's response.
I think it was in the way that I think they kind of shattered the trust that they had with most people. I think the SRD being thrown into the Creative Commons is actually pretty amazing. The fact that they did that is bonkers, and it's amazing for all the people who will continue to create 5e. That's fantastic, great. But I think the process that they got to get there and what had to happen in order for them to do it, which was we basically held them hostage. I think that shattered any trust and a lot of goodwill that people had, and I think a lot of people who, and myself is included partially in this, Keith, definitely. I mean, if you were people who grew up with Dungeons and Dragons being your role-playing game, it felt very much like a betrayal, especially if you put in a lot of hours making sure people are playing that game by virtue of creating things for it. So that's a lot of hard work and creative energy put into something that then turned around and kind of bit you, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And I think a lot of people were left with that, and I don't think that went away because they eventually decided to do the right thing. I think a lot of us are still like, well, it's awesome for my peers that are going to continue to create, but peace, I'm out. I'm done. So that's my opinion on it.
Wouldn't it definitely shattered trust in the sense that they're going to try and push me down the stairs later. That's a worrisome kind of feeling. But at least they're not going to push us down the same flight of stairs. You know what I mean?
Maybe shorter
so
stairs.
Because the Creative Commons is a big old handrail on that thing, we're safe on that because that's out of their hands. I think because they put at least the 5th edition SRD under Creative Commons, it can't be taken away. That door can't be closed, which is good.
But I don't think the part that disturbs me the most, because it's like, what have they really done? Yes, they've given everybody this 5th edition thing. That's great, but I remember back in the olden days when D&D moved from 3.5 to 4, and how many people just got left behind. And you could still play 3.5, yeah, you could still play it, but no one played it because people want to play D&D, and that's what the newest edition is. So that's what I'm feeling like they're setting people up on this one, and it just look, they're a corporation and they're going to do what's best for their shareholders. I get that, I understand that as a person, but at the same time, if they had any kind of brain power, they could have continued on as they were, still making tons of money. And even better, turned a lot of the third-party people into development hubs for them, and probably paid them very cheaply to do it. But now they just made competitors, and they made their biggest competitor of all time even stronger for no apparent reason. Paizo was always a good foil for them, but now it's like, now Paizo will become number 2, guaranteed. there's nothing to stop them now.
I think that what we might see happen is that, and again, it's something that I think that most of us have been guilty of at one point or another, is Dungeons and Dragons will stop being like the Coke or the Band-Aid, or it won't be the generic term for role-playing anymore. And I think that would actually be a good thing, because it's going to help open things up for people. It's no longer going to be my gateway into anything has to start with Dungeons and Dragons, which, no salt on that at all, because that's how I entered into role-playing, was Dungeons and Dragons. But I feel like now it's going to be more open, and it's going to be more tailored toward, hey, if you like this kind of thing, then now you can jump into the system, which I'm creating stuff for. I used to create stuff for D&D, but then I found this, or whatever. But I feel like we have a good opportunity to stop making that the default, and that will make things that they will feel more than anything else. Is that when I'm talking to people out in public, I don't have to say, oh, I make stuff for Dungeons and Dragons for you to need to understand what I'm saying. I can just say, oh, I make this tabletop role-playing game, or I make this for Pathfinder, or I make this for, Cypher, whatever. But you can open that up so that they don't have that constant, they don't have the constant, Dungeons and Dragons is role-playing going for them, which is what they've had forever.
Yeah, I think it definitely accelerated any movement away from D&D that were already happening, because I think people were already moving in that direction. The more they were getting exposed to things now, and it's not even just that they accelerated the movement away from D&D, they've also accelerated, like you said, their competitors moving forward, and not just Paizo, but MCDM, and Cobalt Press. They're all moving forward with projects that they probably already had in the books, but now they've accelerated the process of it. So they've just created a lot of problems for themselves. And I think really, as far as the announcement goes, being too little too late, I think it's not so much how long it took them. I think what was worse for me was just the gaffes that kept happening. The public relation gaffes that just kept happening, that just made everything so obvious and apparent. And it didn't get better until they finally gave the public relations side of it to the actual creators and the actual people at developing the game. Is when it started to get better, but at that point it was like we've already heard so many terrible statements from the corporate side of things that it definitely left a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
How interesting was it? Like, it was so. Look, I love drama. I love gossip. I love arguing. It's just so fun. And so from that perspective, normally it's like my neighbor's house is on fire, but this time it's like, oh wow, my house is on fire. So it was really entertaining, I think, from a spectacle standpoint. But you're right, those gaffes. It was just hit after hit.
It was, and it was painful, because I mean, in a way, it's like, it's there. It's when you're like, oh shit, there's drama. That's super great. We all love it. But I mean, there were a lot of people that suddenly overnight they were like, oh, I'm fucked. Most of my income is coming from this, or I spent years building up this Patreon support, or this support based solely on this. And whether or not that was a prudent business decision or not, that's where I'm at. And so, there were a lot of people that approached it in a way it's like, well, just fucking switch, which that's great. If you can do that, that's awesome. I and Keith made the decision because we were in a position where we don't make enough money from what we're doing currently for it to be a life or death situation. We were like, well, you know what? Fuck you. We're going to go do something else. We have the ability to be able to do that because we didn't have as much to lose as other people. There were other people that were like, oh, I'm fucked. And then there was a lot of people that were like, well, you should have thought of that. It's like, it was a horrible way for people to handle it. So there was a lot of unnecessary drama as well, and a lot of weird voyeuristic, oh, I'm so glad to see the D&D people are getting it. Or I'm so glad to see this is happening. And it's like, it was painful for a lot of my peers and a lot of, my friends who make stuff. They were crying. They were at a loss.
Oh, yeah.
What am I going to be doing? Or I can't learn a new system. That's another thing too. It takes a writer quite a while to be able to learn the bones of a new system elegantly enough so they feel comfortable designing for it. And so that's a lot of time lost there. And the one thing that D&D did do was they had that SRD out for everybody to look at for fucking years. So everybody knew it. Everybody had access to it. It was very easy, and there were not a lot of other options like that available. It would take a lot of legwork and a lot of time to be able to become as well versed in another system. So I mean, it was a scary moment. And when they finally gave and put everything under the CC, I remember just being very relieved for my friends and my peers because they were able to continue, basically.
See,
I slept for 12 hours.
Yeah.
So good.
You know that you either messed up or did something brilliant when for sure you're going to be taught in business school. There will be lessons on this in 10 years in business school on, regardless of what they do, on the alienation of an entire community that basically loved you. I mean, like, it's hard to put an emotion on that, but I mean, everybody loved role-playing games, and they just attached D&D to it. I mean, there were some who didn't like D&D, but they were really, I mean, they had 80% market share. They were less than 20% of the market, and probably they all played it for a while before they jumped anyway.
But I mean, I also blame, I hate to say it like this, I have to blame the third-party publishers because you put so much trust in someone you shouldn't have put so much trust in. I've been thankful enough to have done this long enough to know that bad things are going to happen, and they always do. Poo-poo happens. Okay, great. But at the same time, 5e was such a big push. I mean, I put out some 5e products. They didn't really sell very well, so I said, oh, I'll find something else, no big deal. But I saw so many people attached to it, and even friends that I know very well who've done tons of stuff, and I'm like, why aren't you guys making more stuff for your own IP and just using the rules for what they're supposed to be? And they're like, oh, no, I don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to keep making stuff for 5e. And I kept saying, like, well, what happens if 5e goes away? Because, it's 5th edition. What happened to 2nd edition, 3rd, 4th? I mean, that should tell you that it's going to go away, and it may not be a positive thing for you. But, like, a lot of people just didn't want to get away from it. And I thought that was just, for me, was so weird. Because it was like, I mean,
for us, it was because everybody's playing D&D, so if you're coming in as nobody, it's better to be putting stuff out for something that people know things about than trying to create something from scratch. But, like, we never used any Wizards IP, ever. We freelanced on the DMs Guild with another project once or twice to, like, help some friends out or something. But all of our own stuff we published on DriveThru, and we just used the OGL and the SRD, what was available there. And I think the accepted knowledge was that the OGL is not going anywhere, that it's perpetual, that it's, you're never going to have to worry about that not being there.
You mean you thought it was perpetual?
Yeah. we all learned a really hard, valuable lesson there that I don't think any of us are going to forget very soon, but it was a hard lesson. I mean, I never thought that there would be a moment where I didn't have the option of creating for Dungeons and Dragons. That never occurred to me that wouldn't be there anymore. And then it wasn't suddenly overnight, and I was like, well, fuck, that's weird. But it was like earth-shattering for a lot of people.
But I think it also was the speed attached to it. I mean, it was one day we had it, and the next day we didn't.
It was abrupt,
I mean, if they'd slowed it down a little bit, I think people could have handled it better. But I think, the VTT guys, bullets to the back of their head, they were all dead. Nobody put it. It's like, wow. And, I didn't realize how much money those guys made until I talked to a couple of them, like, wow, you guys are making real money. I didn't know it was like, and it was like, wow. And,
and Hasbro wanted to say something about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, how much money are these guys making? And you think about it, it's like, okay, you probably made a lot of money. And the tech was already developed out, and now Paizo's doing their version. I'm sorry, Paizo. Watsy's doing their version of it. So it's like, this is where the money is. This is where the future is. This is where people have agreed that this is where the big stuff's going to be. But that being said, I've always thought in my head that there's going to come a time where a lot of the small guys are going to team up and become big companies by absorbing each other and doing that kind of thing. And that still hasn't happened yet. And I don't understand why it hasn't happened. I mean, I'm a one-man band. I do my work by myself, and I freelance 99% of the stuff I do now. When I first got into it, I was doing all the work myself, and then I realized this is not good. This is not good. Let me do what I do best. I do graphic design. Let me focus on that. Get good artists, good writers, good editors, and then you just make a little money off that, and you're good. But I think so many people are still caught in the I've got to do it myself. And I think that's what kills a lot of companies. You don't have to do it yourself. That's why the company's named Lewis Porter Jr. Design. My name's on everything I do. I don't have to No one has to guess who's the guy in charge. Hey, it's that guy. Great. But
I think
yeah,
it's because you have big dreams. At least, I mean, I do too many people's jobs because it's just me and Keith, and then we outsource art. And unless we're doing a Kickstarter or something, we handle everything. So I don't get to do. For Kickstarters and stuff or bigger projects, we'll pay someone to do layout and editing and things like that. But otherwise, it's just the two of us, trucking along. But it's because we have dreams of being the next Kobold Press. You have dreams of being and it was silly, I think, and we realized that recently because you can't be Kobold Press when Kobold Press already exists. They're already doing their fucking thing. You know what I mean? So it's like we can definitely be Underground Oracle Publishing. We can do that. We can do our own thing, and we can get as big as we can possibly get, which is why we wouldn't fold in under someone else personally. But I think that is why people are willing to go it alone. That is why people were willing to cleave to the OGL so much too, because it was like a safety rail while still feeling like you're doing your own thing. I mean, every big company out there is still using the OGL until so it's like, let's do Orc now instead. I mean, you had everybody dependent on that license.
Yeah, we got a question from chat. Let me run it by everyone. So, if you started creating content for other games because of this, what system did you choose, and what were your runners up, and why? Oh, that was from Nicola the Druid, by the way. Thank you for the question.
Cipher system. I've been hawking the Cipher system for a long time because I feel like it is one of the only real universal role-playing games that was out that had a lot of material and stuff for it. Like you can play literally any genre in Cipher. And people have said forever you can do that in D&D, but if we were all honest with ourselves, you had to do a lot of work to try to mod it to do modern stuff or things like that, which we were all willing to do because we love D&D. But Cipher, you could do it natively. And I loved the fact that it's such a narrative-driven system while still having like a really nice, solid mechanical base that you can tool around with. I personally don't like things that feel too loosey-goosey because I feel like I'm sliding around all over the place. But with Cipher, there's the mechanics you can tinker with, and there's the very strong narrative-driven stuff. So Cipher was like number one for us right off the bat. But we are going to branch out into some of our runners up, so we're not putting all of our eggs in a single basket again. Even though I don't think Monty Flip Games is shady or anything, I just learned my lesson. So we're going to diversify, and we'll probably be making some stuff for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We're going to convert our settings to bring them out, and then probably either whatever Project Black Flag ends up being, that as well, which seems like it's going to be pretty close to 5e compatible if I have to take a guess at it. But so that's the why and the runners up for us.
What about you, Sean, as a streamer? Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, please.
Yeah, so I mean, we at Paradise have, even though our primary campaign was D&D, but that ended. We're starting a new campaign. We've already been in development for it, so it's probably going to stay D&D, but after that, it's very much up for grabs. And really, any programming that we do after, so like we have a show that's finishing tomorrow. We have our campaign 2, and we have another show in development. All D&D, but they will probably be the last things that are D&D for a while. We are definitely interested. We've always been interested in branching out. When we run our charity events, we always try to make sure that at least 50% of the games are not D&D, if not more. We're probably going to push more for that. And as far as systems that we're interested in, so we're huge fans of Quest in Paradise.
Oh, nice.
Just because it's such a simple system and it's very narrative focused, and our shows tend to be narrative focused. But I'm getting my Pathfinder 2e copy soon from my local game store. It's hard to get a copy nowadays. And we're gonna be looking at everything. Like I'm just hearing Jess talk about Cipher. I'm like, all right, let's check that out. And then of course whatever Project Black Flag is, we really want to see that. We're big fans of Kobold Press, so yeah. I mean, really, we're unless there's some motivation to bring us back to it, I'm probably going to be shifting significantly from D&D.
Yeah. Matt, you were about to say something when I cut you off a second ago.
Oh, you didn't cut me off. It's all right. I've forgotten. Oh, no, I remember. Lewis, you were saying that why all these small third-party publishers like getting in bed so hard with WotC and the OGL when they could be making their own IP or like covering other systems, like kind of hedging their bets, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I'm in bed with D&D and the OGL, and the reason why I'm not actually considering any other systems, is because like I'm not really a fan of TTRPGs. I'm a fan of D&D. You know, I started playing it like 5 or 6, 7 years ago because it was D&D, and all my friends knew what it was immediately. Like we all had some kind of expectation. Like going from a layman to learning something about the hobby, D&D was the gateway. And considering that my audience of people that I sell to are exclusively new dungeon masters who are shitting themselves in fear of embarrassing themselves in front of their friends,
Yep.
like they're going to be looking for content about D&D. So like I have to stay with them, even though I do have people that would follow me wherever I went. I don't have enough people that would follow me wherever I went that I could still keep doing this as much as I'm doing, you know? So I'm going to stay on D&D, and I don't know whether that means publishing 5th edition content or whether it means publishing content that works with 6th edition, but like in a sneaky way. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like yet.
Oh no, I mean, I know for myself. I mean, I'll say it simply. I prostituted myself all over tabletop. I don't have any loyalty to anything. It's like if I like the system, I'm going to do this. But and I've always focused on the IP side because when I first started this, 2 decades ago, I had a modern set action adventure game that I put out, and I think 2 years of me putting stuff out, D20 Modern came out and Spycraft came out, and everybody said the same thing to me. Oh, it looks like a nice system. Is it for D20 Modern? Is it for Spycraft? I'm like, no. They're like, well, I'm not really that interested. And that was always the thing. And then eventually, funny enough, I got a bunch of guys to do D20 Modern stuff. We converted the book over, and it sold 10 times as many. Now, and I kept selling. I'm still selling it today. I haven't stopped selling it, but at the same time, I know their end goal was never going to be helping me.
Mm-hmm.
They want to sell more. They want to sell more players' handbooks, DMGs, and monster manuals. And that's a smart thing. That's a smart business plan for them. But the problem is they're trying to also sell the adventures now. And it's like, guys, you don't have to do all that. Just focus on selling these 3 things. You'll make money forever. And let the people chew on the edges of stuff that you don't want to do. So let's be honest. I love adventures, but they're just money sinks. You do an adventure, you got to get some original art. God forbid the cartography that you're going to use once and never see again. And it's like, you just toss that money down that hole going, I hope it makes some money. I hope it does well.
I think what's hilarious is the model that you're describing is exactly what made 5th edition so fucking popular. I mean, beyond Critical Role blowing the lid off of everything and, making it where you could buy D20 stocks a hot topic, the DMs Guild and the third parties are the ones who really made content for 5e consistently. So that D&D did not have to shit out a terrible book once every 2 months, which is what people accuse them of doing in 3.5 when they were turning out splat books, which I love, by the way, because I just like that and stuff. But they didn't have to do that because they had a legion of people creating 1 or 2 page documents or 200 page documents that people could enjoy and would still force people to buy their games, would still force people to buy their stuff, would still make people watch their streams. So I think it's a little bananas that they decided to go away from that. I'm sure they have a great plan as to why and a reason why they decided to do that. But like that model that you're describing is what made 5th edition so successful. Like they were doing that and they just decided to stop.
I think the plan they had was, oh, look at all this money's out here. Because I mean, I have to assume on DM's Guild, the 50% take was a little crazy for me. I thought that was just fundamentally wrong. And they could see the numbers. And I don't know this for a fact. And I'm going to say this is 100% as rumor. But I have to assume that Drive-Thru gave them numbers so they could see what's going on behind the scenes. Now, I've been begging to see these numbers forever, and they used to do it way back in the olden days. You could see where you actually placed, like what number were you on a company. I remember I was always in the top 5%. That let me good. I'm like, great, top 5%, I'll be good. I got nothing to worry about. But I don't know where I am now.
Yeah.
I wish I did. I think it's helped me be a better business person, but they're not doing that. But I know WotC knows where they are, and they know how much money they're making, and they figured out, oh, this is money we should be making. This is why we're going to make this change. And to me, it's like, that was stupid. It's like you just killed the golden goose. Sell the 3 books you sell. Do 1 or 2 books a year. Do really expensive books. Make them really super great, and everybody will toss money at you, and you can sit back and just relax. And they would have probably not had a problem forever. But now we have a situation that, you've turned your fans into your enemies, and I wonder what the fan base is going to do now.
Well,
Hey,
Medley, go on, Matt.
I was going to say, here's something that we haven't, I think we're all making the same assumption, but we haven't really talked about it. We're all presuming that when 1 D&D becomes 6th edition and they go, and here's the SRD and the OGL for 6th edition, we're all presuming that's going to suck a lot, right? We're all presuming that that's not going to be workable, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
At least from a third-party perspective.
Yeah, we're all on the same page there, I think.
Good. I just wanted to lay that out.
Another version of the DM's Guild contract, which I was never interested in the first place anyway.
Same.
Except it'll be shoehorned into it rather than being able to opt out of it. That's my opinion. I wish I could say that I think that it's going to have a big, lasting impact on the actual fan base. And actually, I don't even wish that. I'm not even bitter anymore. I was bitter for a hot minute because I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But I've moved on personally, and I know I'm going to have a lot of friends, and I'm going to have a lot of peers who are going to continue creating for Dungeons & Dragons, who are going to sign on for whatever, D&D 1 is, and they're going to create for it because that's how they earn their bones, or because that's where their druthers are. But so I'm not bitter about that, and I wouldn't wish anybody any ill will. I think that the online third-party space, I think where we have a lot of cool opportunities opening up before us. I think that we have a lot of opportunities to take our existing audiences and introduce them to new materials and widen our own audiences by benefit of that. But I think that D&D as a whole, I don't really see it being super impacted. I mean, I don't know. I'm, an outlier. People talk about, I've heard someone in Bloomington talk about the OGL drama, but I mean, I don't think it's impacted the fact that their books are still on Target or Walmart or places where people shop and where you cannot get other role-playing books. So if I'm a kid and my mom is going to buy me a gift at Walmart, she's going to pick up Dungeons & Dragons because I saw that on TV and I talked about it and she brought it back home to me. And it's there. I think that they have the market, definitely, and so I don't know if it's going to really impact people playing. I think it's going to impact us creating, definitely, and I think it's going to open up a lot of cool avenues there, but I think that they're probably not going to see this massive loss of players. I think that even the people who right now are buying books and other systems and stuff, they're still going to have their groups they play D&D with because they love playing D&D. It's fun because their friends are used to playing D&D. I think there's still going to be those people that even if I'm super pissed at WotC, when I go hang out with my friends, they all want to play the game we've been playing for the last 5 years. So I'm probably going to play that still, And I maybe that's me being, a downer, but I don't know my flow.
But what is D&D? I mean, we keep saying that, is Forgotten Realms D&D, or is Ravenloft D&D, or is Dark Sun D&D?
Dungeons & Dragons is the book that we call Dungeons & Dragons at the table. So it's going to be either Forgotten Realms, or it's going to be whatever I grabbed it, or it's going to be the Magic the Gathering setting because I really love Ravnica the card set, or it's going to be, whatever it is, it's that, but it's still going to be WotC's book. It's still going to be Dungeons & Dragons.
That's the part I wonder. It's like, are the mechanics and the IP are separate? Yeah. Dungeons & Dragons is definitely the mechanics. The settings are the settings. They've all got names to them. But then they're Dungeons & Dragons, but it's not Dungeons & Dragons. It's like, if I go home and I play something homebrewed, am I playing Dungeons & Dragons? Well, yeah, but you're using their mechanics.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing Tullus, am I playing Dungeons & Dragons or am I playing Tullus? And I think, there's this murky, I don't say undercurrent of what D&D is. I think we think D&D is fantasy, elves, halflings, that's D&D. But really, that's Tolkien, and that's other fantasy stuff. I think if I was in charge at Paizo, I would do everything I could to attack the position of what is D&D as a concept and how you can get those people to get onto Pathfinder. Because Pathfinder is just, what's Pathfinder? It's a system, but the IP is connected directly to it. D&D has not done that. D&D should have done that and should do that, but they don't. And we just call D&D because it's D&D. I think if somebody's really smart, they're going to figure out you can hit them in the IP part and beat up D&D. And
I think they're trying to do that. obviously, with the D&D movie and seeing more adventures and stuff like that. And that's why I think this was a moment where they're like, all right, we need to get a stranglehold on our product because we need to connect it to IP, because exactly like you're saying, like there needs to be a brand beyond just a system of rules. But I also really agree with Jess. I think it's be really hard for any company to penetrate the market and take what Wizards has. Like it's hard to even think of how you would do it. I think like you're saying, the IP side of it could be a way to penetrate it, but you'd have to be doing something very different. It couldn't just be another fantasy setting. It needs to be unique and compelling and interesting and have multiple points of entry to the market that are going to pull people away from Wizards, because they just have such a stranglehold on the concept of what a TTRPG is.
They're the Band-Aid, they're the Coke, they're the kids on Stranger Things are playing D&D. That's what they're wanting to play, and that's the role-playing game name that my mama knew was Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what she heard, so
yeah.
But she never played.
But the funny part to me to this is, like, and I'm gonna use the comic book analogy, was it is DC and Marvel control 80% of the market, but new kids are reading manga. They're not reading comic books. And it's like, here's a great opportunity. This could happen exactly in our industry in kind of a similar way. A new player who doesn't play by the consistent rules of what the old players did, does totally different stuff, has black and white books that are outselling full color books. They're, people say, oh, you can't do a black and white comic book, they'll never sell. Except for Teenage Mutant Turtles, who sold billions of copies over their lifetime. And it's just like, everybody tells you what you can't do, and whenever somebody does it, oh, it's amazing, it solved the problem. It's like, come on, dudes, come on. We're not doing rocket science here, so let's try some stuff. Try anything. We've got nothing to lose. And let's be honest, WotC owns it because they're the biggest guys in the pool. But they don't make them invulnerable. History has shown that people who are small are crafty and usually wind up killing the large giant through a simple stone. Or if you're in Vietnam, because you use tactics that the large U.S. Army can't do, it's like, dude, why can't I take these guys out? What makes WotC so impressive? They had a great rule set? What, that's it?
So where do you think this is all going to be in 3 to 5 years? Do you still think it's going to be 80% market share WotC, or like what will the landscape be like?
79%.
Woo! Win!
The smart, logical move would be 40%. 25 and then 15, and you figure out who goes in those places. Because let's be honest, you can take D&D. If the only thing D&D has is its name and the nostalgia, and let's be honest, nostalgia is just dead people guilt tripping us. If you can cut those apart, you can take them. Because what else do you have? You don't have any IP. You got a rule set that doesn't really matter, because if it does it cool, it doesn't matter. If you make the first person who figures out whatever cartoon they can make to make it cool and it's interesting, and they can connect it back to tabletop role playing and make somebody play it on a regular basis. And here's a crazy idea. And you can get more people of color, you can get more women playing, you can get, any minority that they've forgotten or not thought of, get them into playing. That can be the turning point.
Something you said there, I think, is really relevant to trying to supplant WotC is finding that IP that is going to pull people in, because I think if a lot of these modules that are like this very popular IP, but it's all through 5th edition, like it's all designed to be played in 5th edition. If you could get your tabletop system to pull in a bunch of these IPs in your system, and it's different from Wizards, that is a way I can really see a system breaking the hold of D&D, is if they've got the most popular anime or the most popular TV series or something that is recognizable, that's going to pull people in, because a new TTRPG system is going to pull in D&D players, but an original IP coming into your system, it's kind of like the movie industry, where it's just like you got everything that is an original IP turned into a movie. Is the business model right now of Hollywood. Buy up as much intellectual property as you can in order to make movies. That's why people buy books as soon as they come out and hold on to it for 15 years and make a movie out of it.
Speaking specifically to the idea of like Wizards losing market share to other TTRPGs, like I think about when I first started to learn what D&D really was, it was when Acquisitions Inc. was doing their 4th edition stuff. And that was coming off the original podcast where it was like hour-long episodes and it was scuffed as anything. It was when the original OGL drama was happening from, I don't know much about it historically, right? But there was a big hubbub about the OGL between 3rd edition, 4th edition. And there were probably people making the same kinds of noises that we're making now, right? But as a university student, just going, oh, I want to hang out and play games with my friends. I never heard about the drama. I didn't hear the words Pathfinder until 4 years ago. And even though I did know about other systems with IPs attached, like we played a game called Warhammer Dark Heresy, right? All grim and stuff. I didn't want, because there was so much baggage attached to it, all this Warhammer stuff that I didn't know anything about. My friends knew about it. Like, I don't care about this. What I liked about D&D specifically was that it was so generic. And like I know that it might not feel generic because it's kind of wacky and lollipoppy. But I liked that it was just vanilla, and I liked that I could just completely ignore the lore. Like Jess, you were saying earlier that like you don't know much about the Forgotten Realms. I don't know shit. People leave comments on my videos being like, "What do you think about the way the Drow do this?" I'm like, I don't know what any of those words are. I'm literally just trying to drink beers with my friends and tell stories.
Being generic makes it accessible because I don't have to explain a heap of why this is happening. I just say, you're a bard, you play a lute, you're an elf, you run around with pointy ears. And it's so, because it is so general, I can attach my own fantasy to it. So in my mind, this is what a bard is, and that's what a bard becomes at our table. Whereas if you are tying it really strictly to a setting, it's like, well, you're this kind of bard, so it actually means you'd be acting this way, and you'd be doing this, and most new players don't want that kind of barrier to your imagination, But I think they are gonna lose some people, like you were saying, they're a stranglehold in the third-party market. I think they're going to lose it because they are heading in a different direction. I think 5 years from now, whatever they're going to be doing isn't going to be a TTRPG. It's going to be something different that is some weird hybrid of, VTT and whatever it is, and microtransactions. And it's going to look more like something that people coming from gaming, which is what they tried to do with 4th edition, people coming from gaming are going to be coming and they're going to be comfortable with the way that it's set up and it's run rather than tabletop role-playing gamers. The TTRPG community might lose Dungeons & Dragons. You might lose some of those people because they're not aiming for those people anymore. They don't care about pencil and paper role players. They don't care about the people who are doing what we're doing right now. They care about this new group of people that we haven't thought about yet that are going to be coming when, one D&D is whatever it is.
There was
That's interesting.
Go on. Sorry.
Plus, there's also the whole technology aspect. Is the tech going to get cheaper and faster? Is it going to get to a point where we're like, well, I don't need paper and pencil. I can do this all online. And what effect is that going to have?
Yeah.
You're going to still need adventures. I mean, you're going to need adventures. You need source books because you want cool things, and that's just people want new things. So I get that. But adventures, you want to play it. You got to play it. You got to find someone to play. I 100% wholeheartedly believe that the person who figures out organized play as an online service that people can get into, that anybody can use from a company perspective, is going to win the war. Because organized play is marketing for me. It is 100% a marketing play. And they toss money at that thing all the time. But they don't really toss any real money. Just people play it, they get interested, they get hooked. And I always say this every time I'm on any kind of podcast. Whoever the person who's going to do this, who's doing it right now, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to be your guinea pig and whore myself out to this. I mean, I believe this with a vehement. It is going to happen.
That seems to be there. I mean, that's if you really look at the writing on the wall. With Hasbro buying D&D Beyond, with their VTT production, you look at something like a big company creating something akin to the VTT Tailspire, but created by wizards. I think Jess is right. I think they're going to turn D&D into a hybrid VTT video game, because and if you just look at the VTT restrictions in the OGL of your VTT cannot resemble a video game and be licensed through wizards. So I think they're going to create some kind of hybrid VTT video game set, because that just makes sense with where they're moving. Like someone said in the chat, they're shit at making normal video games, but if they're just turning D&D into an asset collection that you purchase adventures and you get your little 3D kobolds that you put into your session that is organized through D&D Beyond within the D&D Beyond VTT, I think that's going to create a stranglehold. But also you're right, Jess, it's going to alienate people who are like, no, I like being at a table, or I like the table aesthetic, or just being with my friends and drinking a few beers and playing a game.
What is the VTT that just came out and it looks fun as hell? It doesn't, where you're little pixel people.
Yeah, I always forget the name of it. I see them on TikTok all the time.
But they have like the thing now where you have the app on your phone where you can like basically Tamagotchi your character around the campfire and stuff. And I feel like those are the things that WotC, that Hasbro's looking at and going, that's where we need to be, because that's where people are going. They want that kind of immersion with some role playing. And I feel like that is what they're looking at and going, that's the future of what we're doing. And they're probably still calling it role playing, but it's not tabletop role playing. It's not what those of us here might consider to be role playing. And I feel like that's where they're pushing things for themselves.
They're creating a micro multiplayer online game, not a massive multiplayer online game, but micro, just you and 4 friends in the Forgotten Realms.
I suppose the issue for like us as third-party peoples is that if they go digital, that's less accessible for us. Man, it's a piece of piss for us to make PDFs and distribute them online. There's already all this infrastructure in place. But when people started switching over to Foundry and stuff, a bunch of new creators came up and started making plugins. I can't do that. I'm done. I don't know how to do that. And so this is just going to be like the next evolution of that, except also if they gatekeep the game, playing the game, and relegate it to their platform and their www.iliked.com, then that's going to be like completely inaccessible for us. So I suppose that's a threat.
Yeah, that's potentially the goal. We did get a question in chat that I thought is interesting. So if 6E becomes the new 4E, licensed too restrictive to be appealing, do you think most people will stay with 5 the way they once stood with 3.3.5? Like when 6 comes out, will people stay at 5, or is there just too much marketing muscle behind it now? And like, I think 3.5 was a different era. It really was kind of a hidden hobby, I think. And it's no longer that. It is a mainstream hobby. There's too many people seeing too much about it now for it to sit in your game store, on your game store table. So I have a feeling it won't be the way it was in the past, and it'll be a lot more of an aggressive push to prevent it from that. It might become older people sitting at tables and younger people saying, like somebody said in the comments, that's the old way to play.
And when I say the table experience, I also mean like VTTs and like playing like this virtually or however you play. I just mean the real role playing experience without needing to have that digital requirement involved, not needing to have what. And I think like a lot of people use D&D Beyond as just their character sheet. They're not like actually using it for role playing or anything like that, But I think what they might do is try to push that in a stronger direction where you're just seeing my little character on the screen doing whatever I'm doing, which a lot of people are going to find that very, very appealing. But I don't know. I feel like it's just it's gonna split people's interests, just like 4th did, because 4th was very different than 3rd was. So I feel like 6 is going to be different than 5e, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of big people still creating for 5e, and I think that's what's going to keep it going. People are going to play it because of its ease of entry still.
Oh, but it's going to be backward compatible.
Yeah. So, yeah. I was looking at some of that stuff from a design perspective. I don't see a lot of it being backwards compatible. That's not my job anymore. But I feel like it's really just going to be based on what the experience people want. And there might be a lot of people that play both, but I feel like I feel like 6E or 1D&D or whatever is probably going to have a hard road to hoe if it's pulling in the old D&D players if their only thing that they're going to be doing is focusing digitally. If that's their big push, I feel like it's going to be hard to pull in people with the LCS and stuff because they want their books. They're rolling dice. They're doing what they're doing. So it's going to come down to which experience you prefer. And I think they're probably going to pull in some people, definitely. But I feel like if it's not a tactile thing that people can do, they're going to lose a lot of their current base, in my opinion, because you're still going to have tower houses creating for that. Black Flag, that from Kobold Press, MCDN. I mean, these are people with massive audiences that still plan on building something that you can play in the way that we're all used to playing currently, whether that's on a virtual tabletop or not. So, I mean, I feel like it's going to split on interests more than anything else.
I have someone that has. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
Speaking of someone that regarding are people going to stay on 5th edition or 6th edition, and Sean can probably commiserate with this. That as a YouTuber and a streamer, respectively, we thrive off attention. Love that shit. You want to be searchable, and the marketing push from Wizards, even though they're saying it'll be backwards compatible now, the messaging later will be 5th edition is no longer supported. You are obsolete, and they'll start terminating people. I think that the marketing message is going to get amplified by social media because we're going to be incentivized to switch it. Like, Sean, can you imagine how many viewers you would get streaming in the D&D category, and then one day you go, no, in protest, we're going to the tabletop RPG category. I'm going to tank my career.
And that's an excellent fucking point that I literally did not think of, which is you guys are a big arm of what people are looking at. I'm on my couch watching you guys play whatever the fuck you're playing. That's what's driving the interest. So wherever you guys go, you're going to be pulling a lot of people with you. And I can't honestly blame anybody for doing what you said. I mean, you can't throw yourself on the pyre of obscurity to make me feel better about myself. You're trying to out there and thrive yourself, So I mean, yeah, that's actually a really excellent point. I mean, the reason why we started with 5e and not Pathfinder 2nd edition is because of how much of the market Wizards had, and we knew that we'd get more people looking at it. That's 100% why. That's an excellent point.
That's why everybody chooses D&D that chooses D&D. Everybody chooses it because of that. You just look at the numbers, and it's almost an impossible comparison to go, let's just make for Pathfinder. I mean, you've got to have a real conviction in that 20% market share, or whatever, 10% or whatever it is, to go, we can make a profit and potentially a living in that. Nobody wants to be RC Cola. We're all okay with Pepsi or Coke.
Just to add fire to this, right now, tabletop RPG category on Twitch, 396 viewers, Dungeons and Dragons, 3.1k viewers. 178k followers follow the tabletop category versus the 729,000 that follow the Dungeons and Dragons category. So, yeah, there's an audience side of it, no matter what, for streamers. And for 6th edition, 1D&D, whatever it ends up being, whatever can count as Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch, there's a incentive to at least have one of your shows on your channel be Dungeons and Dragons. And then you can play whatever you want in other shows, but there's incentive to have at least one pull people to your channel, and then hope they stay for the other ones if that's what you really care about playing.
Which category are we in right now?
Tabletop RPGs.
Can we get that sorted, please? Sorry, is there a mod around? Can we get our category changed? Get me out of here.
I was trying to be logical, and I know it was a mistake.
And that's me being an old woman, because I'm like, I completely fucking forgot about the streamers, and you guys are, with everything. That's where, that's.
The attention economy is not forgiving.
Yeah, we have one more question before we take a break. This is from Starshine Windlord. Do you think this debacle is a side effect of some overly enthusiastic internal marketing push?
I mean, there is that direct connection to the whole discovery of the value of Wizards of the Coast by the the shareholders of Hasbro, that you can create at least some kind of logical link between the behavior of Wizards and that event. That was just completely accidental that they discovered that Wizards is overwhelming majority, a significant majority of the profit of Hasbro.
Well, here's a crazy idea. What if it wasn't a mistake? What if it was 100% planned?
Come on. What are we doing?
I mean, look, let's think about it. They were talking about in the news for 2 weeks straight. You couldn't get that kind of advertising in the real world would cost you millions of dollars. They basically riled up their fan base. They went rabid for 2 weeks, screamed their heads about it, and then Watsi says, "You know what, fan base? We agree with you. We think you're right. We think that was a good idea, and we're sorry."
Yeah.
And the fan base cheers like they moved along.
That's
What
true.
if it was just all BS?
Especially
I reckon.
if they already planned on fucking leaving the third-party publishers behind anyway, then they don't care if they break that trust. They're just like, oh, it's gonna be great for us for a hot minute.
This is wild. I could get on the news if I just go to a train station, all right, and I'm just gonna shit my pants every day for a week. All right, I'm gonna get front page news. Nuisance ruins transport. Okay, and it would ruin my career. You know, you'd have to take the VOD down for this. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think it.
Would it? I mean, okay.
Sorry, guys, I gotta go.
This one. Watch this. Monica Lewinsky is an infamous name in politics. Did it ruin her career?
I would argue that her life was pretty ended for
There's a-
a hot minute.
Yeah.
I don't think it ended Bill Clinton's career, but I think she was fucked for like a decade.
Yeah, I think she had to rebuild it like from
But I mean,
A bit
scratch.
of baggage.
But I mean, really, what did she really do though?
I mean, we don't want
Girl
to say
got
what
this
she
old
did.
guy because he's got power. I mean, come on, that's the theme of most TV shows and stuff. So it's like, what are we really doing? Are we saying, oh, you were wrong for doing that? You shouldn't have done that. And these old guys, the same guys, doing the same stuff. So it's like, come on, what's really going on here? I mean, and Clinton came out of that smelling like a genius. So
I don't know.
So I gotta wonder if I'm at Watsi and I'm like, what's the craziest thing we could do that's gonna get people riled up? Even though we know we're going to fix it at the end, we're going to have them go crazy, but they're not going to leave. They're going to be mad, like, you know, I'm going to leave, but like, I'm not going to leave. And let's be honest, Paizo getting all these sales is healthier for the industry, which means more people playing, which is good for everybody. So it's like, how, and they know, they got 80% of the market. If Paizo goes from, let's be crazy, Paizo goes from 5% to 8%. Ooh, a whole 3%. Oh my God, I'm scared. I mean, you know, it's like, if I'm Watsi, I'm gonna be hitting everybody with a club. I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna act like, oh, this is so horrible. What did we do? Oh my goodness, thank God you told us. I'm so glad. And then 6 months from now, when people have short-term memory loss, they'll just go ahead, roll 6 out, do what they're supposed to do. Sorry, third-party guys, things change. I'm sorry, and just keep on moving. What are you gonna do at that point? BTT can't fight that.
I think I think the nefariousness is properly administered there, where I do think the types up there would be the nefarious ones like that. I think we're giving them a little too much credit for their wisdom and wit.
I think they didn't expect the pushback. Like if they were like, let's kick the hornet's nest a little bit, they probably weren't like, oh fuck, we just lost a shit ton of D&D Beyond subscriptions, so we might not get back for
The leadership didn't play games. They didn't play them.
Yeah.
They came from Microsoft and tobacco companies, and they were interested in computer games, and they thought this would be convertible.
But remember, every year we're getting new players.
That is
New
true.
players who've never seen what we've seen.
Yeah.
I'm 53. I'm getting older. I'm going to be dropping off eventually because that's the way it works. There's some kid right now, my son, prime example, 12 years old, 13, 14, 15. They're coming up. In 4 years, we'll be old and old. They'll be the hot new thing. And this thing won't even exist to them. They won't even know about it.
I mean, there's a lot of new players. This thing doesn't exist to them right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, that's true.
it's like,
If you really
how
think about
long-
it, what's the percentage of D&D players who have any idea this happened?
Or even worse, how many of them actually care?
yeah.
I don't think they should care. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
the thing
Players
is, like, it
should
doesn't.
care.
It
I wasn't
doesn't
a
affect
creator.
them very much.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't. The only thing it affects them is if they bought our content, if they even know about the content we sell.
Can I interrogate the theory that it was an intentional leak? And just, is it part of it that if it was an intentional leak, and they were doing it presumably because it's like, oh, we're going to get some benefit from this. Is the current state of play, do you think that's part of their business case, or do you think this is like unexpected consequences? Like, could this be like a gamer going according to plan, or what?
I don't think it went according to plan. If the leak was intentional, it was meant to test the waters for how far they could go.
Yeah, gently,
And,
not the way it went.
Yeah, I think they thought this would be something where a couple people would get mad and they would change a few things, and then they would just ride on their public relations language for it in order to get a new OGL out. I don't think they ever planned on putting SRD into CC and doing everything that they're doing now with it. I think they originally were like, we're going to see if we can get away with some changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but once again, putting the 5th edition into CC, what effect does that have on 6? Hey everybody, I did a nice thing for you all, but I don't care because I'm working on 6. That's the one I care about. You can have the old thing because once we put out 6, no one's going to care about 5th. And people are going to flee from 5th to go to 6 because that's real D&D. I don't know what this is.
And realistically, most people, after you cancel your D&D Beyond subscription, I did my part to fight the good fight. We won. Now I'm going to sign back up to D&D Beyond because that's what I'm used to using constantly. You know what I mean? So that's where most people are going to go because we're human beings and we don't, taking a stand that first time was hard and then we won. So now we go back to normal. Everything's cool. You know what I mean? So they might not see a massive effect. What you said earlier, if the movie does well, I'm sure they're gonna be like, fuck, whatever. You know what I mean? Like if the movie does well, they don't care.
That's the thing, is that the contemporary Dungeons and Dragons their goal is to find marketing areas that are not third-party publishers and your local game store. That's why D&D books are sold in every freaking store under the sun now instead of just your local game store. And when you go to those stores, there aren't any other TTRPGs there.
Yep.
In the little tiny D&D section in Newbury Comics, there's no other TTRPGs in there.
Yeah. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Does the market fragment further after this? And the reason I brought it up is I had seen an interview the other day where there was a suggestion that perhaps Critical Role is maybe looking at creating their own RPG. So I'll leave it to you.
I had said that I don't think it's to their benefit to do it, in my opinion, because what they're after is not grabbing a share of the TTRPG industry as much as it is to get themselves and their stories out there doing what they're doing. And I think they've already got a comfortable place. That's only growing, so I don't feel like they would want to shape things up in that way. But that's just my opinion.
They have a game company.
Yeah, they have Darrington Press. I know. Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like maybe they would have done it, in my opinion, if like Kobold and MCDM and other people hadn't already said that they were going to be doing what they're doing. But I feel like if you look at it now, they would be better off backing one of those external people than they would making their own, in my opinion. But I could be totally off.
And then I said in the trial run of this conversation, I said, as somebody that specifically made Critical Role content, I don't see a lot of Critical Role fans also being TTRPG players. So they'd be trying to convince people who don't currently play games to come play their game. And I also wanted to add in a question to this of when people leave D&D, like in the natural churn of D&D, and if that churn gets more drastic, so more people are leaving because they're shitting the bed or whatever, do you think that they flow down to another RPG or do they leave the hobby? Because I think that when people leave D&D, they're probably more likely to leave the hobby than to go to another RPG.
I agree with that 110%. I think when people go, they go. I mean, if you want to, I hate to go back to comic books, but this is like so like
I'll do it.
Mirrored. It's like Marvel makes tons of movies. Most comic books don't sell more than 40,000 units. I don't know how that makes any sense because Marvel makes all these great movies. Why aren't people buying comic books? Well, they're not because they don't care about comic books. They care about the thing they're looking at. And some people don't even realize they are comic books, which I don't understand that, but whatever. I don't think I don't think the market getting more fragmented is not going to change anything if the leader has 80% of the market.
Yeah.
You know,
When it comes to Critical Role in the sense of this question, streamers who stream TTRPGs, their product is not D&D. Their product is not TTRPGs. Their product is a group of people that are relatable, playing a game, and telling a story. That's why Critical Role's audience, so many of them don't play D&D because they don't really. It's cool to them. Maybe they think about playing someday, but they're more interested in the story told in the campaigns in Critical Role and watching the VODs and buying the comic books, buying the books, reading, watching the TV show. And for Critical Role, I don't think they care about making a full RPG. I think they care about continuing their brand's extension into multiple media platforms and multiple mediums. I think they wouldn't be making more books with D&D if they were planning on ultimately making their own RPG. I think they'll continue to make books with D&D as long as they have a partnership with them, and then continue making board games, simple games that be played by anyone that are themed around their stories, and the games that people can play, learn in 15 minutes, and play on their hangout night with their friends, and be like, oh, we all love Critical Role, let's play this card game that it takes an hour to play. Not let's all start our own D&D campaign.
Yeah,
they're not going to do it.
What Critical Role does is so difficult for most people to replicate, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, their first time role playing, if their only experience is Critical Role, they might feel a little bit disillusioned and rather just be, I'd rather, like you said, play the card game, or I'd rather watch the show, or I'd rather do whatever, because that's my experience with it, is this world and these characters, rather than I love pretending to be something that I'm not.
Yeah, and that's why, as far as, in my perspective, as far as streaming goes, and why people are not going to leave D&D on the streaming side, is, one, just because it's synonymous with TTRPGs. Two, it's synonymous with Critical Role in its own way, not as a game necessarily, but in the form of this is where that kind of story is told. It's also synonymous with Dimension 20 now, and I think the future of anyone who's trying to create in the industry is the Dimension 20 model, not Critical Role model. Short series, edited YouTube videos that are more accessible than a 3 to 4 to 5 hour session. And Critical Role only gets away with that because they have an audience, a built-in audience, that is willing to watch that now.
Yeah, and go on. Sorry, Jess.
Oh, I was just super agreeing with Sean, but that was a good point.
Yeah. There was a question that came in, and I think it's kind of a valid one. First, the statement that was made before it, I think, was really interesting and valuable. Is there's the theater, there's the tactical gamers, the theater kids, the performers, the beer and pretzel home crowd. As the hobby grows, there's more people connecting with it in different ways. And then the question from that was, so as up to that, actually, what opportunities do you see guys in different modules, MCDM, Black Flag, Cypher, True Indie, or whatever, Morkborg, being able to eat into that? I mean, do you think that all these things that are fractured now can grow market share, or are they eating, are they going to only be separating that 20% that's not WotC? Just dividing that differently.
It's not exclusive market share either. Once someone plays D&D, they play other games as well.
True.
I don't know what the word means, but I've heard people say zero-sum game. I don't know what it means, but it's somehow involved in what I'm talking about.
I think it's the opposite of what you're talking about.
Okay, good.
Zero-sum game would mean that you can't play both.
and yes, I know what I'm talking about.
I think what we're seeing, it may not have seemed like it throughout this conversation, but I think this is an excellent opportunity for a lot of us in this space to grow in a way that we would not have been able to before. I think, speaking just for myself and for Keith as Underground World Publishing, the model that we had was essentially the model that we started out with, which was just creating supplementary material for 5th edition, and to be as to try to get in our own lore and things like that, but to still keep it as accessible as possible so that new people would want to be able to play it. But I mean, I think that this has given us a push into a new system for us to be publishers rather than supplement creators, so we can create our own worlds. We can get these out in front of people in ways that we probably wouldn't have for a while before, because we were in a comfortable position. First of all, we didn't feel like we had to change anything, and there's also that kind of that obligation that you feel with Dungeons and Dragons to keep it, Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what it is. And so you're always kind of held back by that. And so I think for us, it's created that opportunity. I think these other massive people, like Kobold Press, MCDM, Montauk Games, I think they're going to see the exact same opportunities that they can capitalize on, which is they're going to have an influx of third-party creators getting their system out in front of people. So they're going to have the opportunity to grow their IP of choice in whichever way they would like to. So I think it is going to be good for them as well. And even if they don't want to go deep outside of the TTRPG space, they're still going to get in front of a lot more eyes than they probably would have initially, because they're going to have a big source of grassroots word of mouth they did not have before.
But there's also going to be a group of third-party publishers that come up now that no one's ever heard of, that if they're smart and they're crafty, they go after the kobolds. They go after everybody else as, hey, you're the big fish in the pond. I'm the new guy. Let me see kind of soft underbelly you have, so I can take some of your people.
Yeah.
I think that might happen a lot more with the, I'm going to call them the new fan base of, potentially D&D 6. What if somebody makes if we're going to go IP to IP, what if somebody makes a better IP than Kobold Press? And they go after their players? How much is that worth to do? I mean, look, I'm a simple kind of guy. I like anything goes, and I know that would be a nice little interesting moment, because there's going to be somebody out there who's doing the world that's better than Kobold, cheaper, faster, and everything, and go after them. How do they deal with that?
Well, I think another opportunity that Wizards has presented these people like Kobold Press, MCDM, Montauk Games, etc., Paizo, is the opportunity to show the community of both their players and potential third-party creators, we're not like these guys. We're not going to fuck you over down the road. We're not going to try to micro transaction you to death. We're not going to do these things. And it's given them an opportunity to show, we're the good guys in this space. We're the people who are going to take care of you. We're just like you, etc. And I think that is an opportunity to get a lot of goodwill that they might not have had otherwise. And these are things like people who love Kobold Press fucking love Kobold Press. They love everything about them. And if tomorrow I came out with the fucking hot new thing, they'd be like, I like Kobold Press. You know what I mean? So I feel like all they're doing is strengthening their loyalty and their core base that got them to where they're at, because there's been a stark juxtaposition that's like, that is what a fuckface looks like. I'm not that.
How good is that? Good and evil. Hey, I just want to quickly address Lewis, you were suggesting, like, somebody's probably making the next big thing now, and it could come out of nowhere. I just want to also highlight that right now, as I'm speaking this sentence, somebody has just, refinanced their house on their own TTRPG. It's like a Lizard Quest 2099, when lizards took over the world. And you could be any kind, you could be a blue lizard, you could be a red lizard, and it's going to fail. They're going to lose it. They're going to lose everything.
Oh.
Don't sign them.
I mean, you think back to 3.0, there are tons of guys who, I remember ZealZaddy, who set up a bunch of people to put these books out to be published, and they went under, taking a lot of people with them.
Oh.
There's so many companies that imploded. Them, or ZealZaddy, Ossium, who just took companies out. I guess it's pretty much well known, is that Green Ronin, their entire first print run of Mutants and Masterminds was absconded with.
Really?
With Ossium.
Okay.
That's why they made second edition come out so quickly, and it's like, holy cow. And it didn't make sense in the moment, because I remember I was making products for their first edition. I was like, why are they doing second? They just put out first. It doesn't make any sense. And you found out later, they didn't make any money. All the money was taken. Oh, okay. So, I'm hoping no one's doing something that foolish now. But, there's somebody out there right now with that idea saying, this is going to be bigger than anything.
There are also other ways though to split up a market. Like we were talking earlier, it doesn't have to be a zero sum game. What if D&D is the beginner tool, and then there's the mid-tier products and the top-end products, so that you have Samsung, Apple, where Apple makes all the money, but Samsung sells all the product. You could end up with that kind of a shearing of the top by MCDM or like or a new one that comes up out of nowhere.
I mean, that is what the foundation is right now. You know, it's like all of the third-party publishing. It's their audience is the D user, so it kind of it's set up to be that way right now. And if it could turn into an even, it could turn, like you're saying, it could turn into the situation where most people leave D&D pretty quickly after adopting it into other things that are more interesting or more complex, and that's its own smaller market within the larger market.
So D&D could be like the marijuana kind of gateway drug.
Yeah, the gateway
drug. But then, like, if any of my friends are really cool, it's like, hey, come around on Saturday night. Don't tell anyone you come. We're doing something spicy.
But the heroin dealer is not allowed in. That's like too crazy. No.
Yeah.
I don't.
Heroin and TTRPG.
I played this game the other day. It was very Moorish.
Yeah. One of the other, there was actually a good comment in there. I wanted to bring it up. It was, let me find it again. So do you think this is a boom or a bubble, right? Are we in a bubble, a TTRPG bubble with all these new products? Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah. It was a good question, but I don't think we are. I think we're in an expanding market is what we are.
And I think there's a lot of people that are thinking like we are here, which is it's like, you know what, there's an opportunity to blaze a new trail, or you know what I mean. And I think there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of momentum behind that right now, and they're not stopping because they see the iron's hot, they're ready to go. So I think you're gonna see that push for the next couple of years, definitely. And I think 3 years from now, we're gonna see a lot of really fucking cool stuff that's gonna be outside of WotC, I think.
Can I get motivational? Hey, what up, person watching this? If you were thinking about making an RPG, you should do it like now. Just start right now. It's honestly, you can't fail. Make your YouTube channel, make your Twitch channel. They've opened up the Creative Commons SRD, so you can even use words like magic missile and fireball, and you're not going to get sued. So just do it. I believe in you. You're going to smash it. Do it. Okay, done.
That was
all right.
Awesome.
Continue.
So actually, since you're talking to those people that are not already creators, I want to talk about the players for a minute. And this is actually a question, I think it should start with Sean, because you run games for a lot of people, a lot of players. Did your players come to you and ask about, throughout this entire thing, did they ever ask about other systems, the idea of moving, and I mean with a positive or a negative, like did it come up? Did they want to try new things, or were they like, it'll blow over?
No. No, they did not come up and ask about this. When I talked about it to them, they said they were open to other systems. So like I had conversations with a few of them just like offhand, and like, like Stefan, who's on our channel frequently, is a huge MCDM fan, so he was immediately like super stoked about the idea they're making their own TTRPG.
Yeah.
He's also a huge Cobalt Press fan, so like he's probably of them all the unique one who's actually like also heavily invested in third-party publishing like me, as opposed to, the rest of the crew are more players. I had conversations with Shannon and some other folks on our team about it, and they were all very willing to move. They had to move for some reason. But they didn't really bring it to my attention to be like, hey, I really would love to play X system or something like that. I took the initiative to immediately start looking, because I was just like, immediately going to start looking. I mean, I already had Quest as a backup at all times for me. It's also a really easy backup if you just need to quickly change a D&D game into something that's not D&D, because it's still a D20 system, and it's basically just super easy D&D. So, the players didn't necessarily come up to me and ask to try new systems, but they were very open to it, and when the conversation came up.
Did any of them say, for sure, I don't want to play anything but D&D?
I didn't get any of that from anyone saying like, absolutely not, I will never play anything but D&D. Everyone's pretty open to new things. I'd say some folks were maybe hesitant because they're like, I have no idea how to play anything else. It took me long enough to learn D&D. It's usually the line you hear often.
Yeah.
But we've played other things on Paradise, and anyone like new to the. I mean, this is the interesting thing. Like we have we have a show ending production tomorrow, and we have another show coming up, and both of them started off as potentially non-D&D games, and then through the process of production, they eventually just became D&D games because it was easier. And then the other thing that was easier is casting. That's the biggest thing that is actually the most difficult part of is when you are casting, players just have no idea about other systems sometimes, and it's just easier to cast when you're just asking for D&D. Even when we're running charity streams, it's easier when we're like, because we want people to run new systems or other things or third-party games, and it's always like, you have a week to teach these people how to play this game before the charity stream.
Or a session 0.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You have 90 minutes to teach them how to play this game before we're gonna play it live, for an audience, in a week or two. So it's difficult. I think most people I've talked to who are players in the TTRPG space want to learn new systems, because if they're actual play performers and it's like a line item on their resume that they want to have, it's good for them to know other systems. It's good for them to know other things because they can be easily cast and things. But overall, everyone is kind of like, the line is still, it took me long enough to learn D&D. I'm D&D.
Sean, do you think that the system that, like, imagine this, there's going to be a system that takes over D&D, wow, is it crunchier or lighter than 5th edition, do you think?
So I think crunchier systems will have more longevity than a less crunchy system, because Quest is that. Quest is the less crunchy D&D that had an opportunity to get some real market presence when there was I don't remember which controversy it was for what WotC, but it was some controversy where people were really not gonna. Were one of the first ones I saw when I came into the space, and Quest had a huge jump in its book sales, and a bunch of channels were like, we're gonna switch to Quest, but they just don't have the marketing power to really push hard enough to overtake things.
It's an awful name to have to search,
It's true. I'm a big fan of the system, and you search and it's like, you first thing you get is like Quest Diagnostics for like blood testing, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's your game called? It's called Game.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. I think a crunchy system has meat to it that players can digest and have long-term growth in, whereas a less crunchy system, it's kind of a one and done. It's really your imagination has to carry it.
The reason why 5e is so popular with streamers is because it does have that ease of entry, and it's not as crunchy. You can focus more on the role playing, more on the acting, more on the improv, and not have to worry about the crunch weighing you down.
I think it has just enough. I think it is a perfect balance where like you can have an hour into the game and you haven't rolled the dice yet, and still use abilities and still use rolls and stuff. But yeah, I do think that's why people aren't playing as much of crunchier games, because it's not super fun to watch people add things up, and that's why like Dimension 20's edited games are so successful. The 2.5 hour VODs of a game where we've cut out too much of the crunch. It's why there's people who you'll find sometimes in the comments of Critical Role episodes that say they skip the combat entirely.
Yeah,
just skip ahead to the combat.
Yeah.
And I sometimes I've done it before, because listening to someone go, okay, does a 22 hits? Okay, all right, that's 6 necrotic damage and 7 piercing damage, and okay, it's just not exciting to watch unless people are really into it. That's why Critical Role is pretty successful. They get super into the combat, and if you're not being animated about it, it's really hard. But D&D has that nice balance where you have enough crunch to be interesting, but there's enough freedom to narratively explore as well.
One thing that's particularly good from like a streaming perspective, I don't stream as a DM, but I do sometimes go into actual plays as a player, and I watch it sometimes. specifically, it's not that it's like just not crunchy or too crunchy enough for me, but it just has, it can lean into this kind of play on mechanics. Like, oh, we got that wrong, but we'll play on. Or we skipped this bit, but we'll play on. And you can kind of, I don't know, cut bits out of it and it still makes cohesive sense and it's still like fairish in a game. And that's really helpful because if you're playing as a dungeon master and you're streaming, it's like, wow, we're being really boring. Let's speed this up. And the game doesn't collapse when you do that.
Yeah, you could just say, all right, that those enemies run away, or those enemies whatever, and it's like, and because there's a GM for a show, an actual play, you are a showrunner, for all intents and purposes. You are a showrunner. You're an actor and the supporting cast, and you're running the actual show and writing the script for the most part, and then the players are adding to that. So it's really nice when you can just smoothly transition out of something because the mechanics are so streamlined that but not even just streamlined, the mechanics in 5e are built for the DM to be able to do whatever they want. So like in a pin drop so that they can keep the game moving. It's actually where one D&D is getting more like or less streamlined, where it's doing more for the DM, which is good for your home game, but for an actual play it doesn't really matter that much because I'm still gonna streamline things because it's how a production goes better.
Dude, I feel the exact same way. Like I was thinking, because I have thought about what would I do if I played another game and I had to learn it. I don't want to learn another game. You were talking about earlier, your players don't necessarily want to learn another game. I don't want to learn another game. I think that if I did run another game, do you know what I'd do? I'd just be doing the same shit that I'm doing now. I'd still be doing something like a skill challenge. I'd be doing something like initiative order. I'd be doing something like the same pace. I'd still be skipping travel. I'd still be, I don't know. It would be the same game, just
it's true because that's why truthfully I keep bringing it up. But if I did ever switch off of D&D, I really do think it would probably be Quest because it is that it's D&D with like streamlined and for a production, for a story, for a narrative, where it's like, okay, we kept the D20s, we kept the idea of a skill challenge, and here's how you resolve these things, and it's very narratively focused. It's very good for productions, I would say, but D&D, of course, more people want to play.
Yeah, and I think from a non-stream perspective, just from an at the table, on a player perspective, it would really come down to what style of game are you playing at your table.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter, if you're there for the role playing, if I'm seeing, if I see what I'm doing at the table as just a vehicle for me acting out my character and doing what I'm doing in this world, then I'm probably not going to want to switch to another system. I'm probably not going to want to learn a whole other set of mechanics because what I'm getting out of the game is entirely different than the person who is micromanaging their character, who's doing the maps and minis and everything. So it would really depend, I would imagine, on what your style of play is. Like players who are really into the mechanics and into the much more like, not non-theater of the mind style of play, they're probably more comfortable learning another rule set than players who I'm here for the experience of theater of the mind and role playing, and whatever we're doing, what I've learned to do is good enough to continue for me to have fun doing this.
It's interesting too because I think a lot of third party stuff is good for that as well, because players want unique, interesting new things for actual plays, because they everyone in the actual play world has played every single class or this and that, every subclass. So a third party publishing that has like a unique class, a unique subclass, and unique items, these are things that if you're not, because otherwise you're doing it, otherwise the DM is doing it. Like I haven't published anything, but I've created plenty that I could release in packages and supplements, because that's you play an actual play long enough and like you just don't make things interesting. And I've even had crunchy players that become less crunchy because they're performing, and it just is sort of an organic pathway for it. But I don't know, it's interesting.
I don't even think that the actor player, for lack of a better word, cares what system they're playing anyway. They're not there for the system. The statistician player, they care about the system. Now, what the actor players do care about is having a lot of audience. And once again, WotC provides that for them. So, I think there's a lot of pressure to maintain I don't want to call it a monopoly because it's not really a monopoly, but it's kind of like a monopoly in a niche industry. Is there's a lot of pressure to keep that monopoly held together from outside. Like that's why I was asking about the players, but that led me into the next question for the creators is if you're moving, how do you move your followers to a new system? Because that is no easy task.
Well, we had the benefit of not being massively well known. I mean, we're small, like very small still. And the people that we have, they've been incredibly supportive when we declared that we were going to move over Cypher. We definitely lost people who were like, hey, I'm not interested in learning a new system. And we were very straightforward, like, hey, when we made our first announcement, we wanted to make it clear, we understand if you no longer want to buy these products because they're not what you signed on for. We understand if you no longer, are supporting us on Patreon or whatever because you were supporting us as 5th edition creators and we're not going to be doing that anymore. So it's totally understandable. So really what we're creating for Cypher the same way that we were creating for 5th edition in that it's lore first. It's very much our style. It's very much, if anything, it'll be more of us because we don't have to worry about navigating some of those more rigid 5th edition frameworks that were kind of when you start creating, you're uncomfortable moving out of certain paradigms just because you don't want to be that person that shakes things up too much and then someone looks at you like, why the fuck did you create this? I'm playing 5th edition. This does not feel like 5th edition. So this gives us more freedom to be more of what people liked about us in the first place. And so we're really excited to get that stuff out into people, but really what our strategy is to just be more of what we are, more of what we were initially, and just lean into that as hard as possible. And I think we're going to be successful doing that because the people who are following us are following us for that reason. They like the way that we tell stories. They like, our ideas, our worlds and things. So just leaning into what we already had a strength in, I think would, no matter what system we went to, we would be doing that as our strategy.
Hey, Lewis, I like what you said. I like that as well, Jess. But Lewis, I like what you said earlier about you had a book that you'd published in one system, but everybody was interested in this other system, so you ported it over and you smashed up your sales. It went gangbusters. So what are you two specifically that are like more got feet in like the actual publishing content stuff? How do you feel about the idea of like, double fist in here, like double parked on a couple of systems?
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
Like I said earlier, what he said is absolutely right. I mean, putting all of our eggs in one basket was not a super great idea in the first place, but it was what we did.
And it was the biggest basket.
It was the biggest basket, and it seemed like such a sturdy basket, but that fucking now, we're taking our remaining eggs and spreading them out a little bit. But once we create our settings for the Cypher system, we're going to be using Kickstarter funds and stuff to convert those settings backwards to other systems as well. So people who play Pathfinder, play whatever Black Flag ends up being or whatever, will be able to enjoy them as well. And we won't be just Cypher creators, even though we're creating them first and primarily. We'll have those options available for other systems too.
So if I'm a game master out there in some obscure system, and I'm like, okay, people are going to start coming. They're coming towards Quest now, and I'm the guy. Should I be out there going, I'm going to help Jess convert their stuff to Quest or whatever? Like, do you have to now be on the lookout for experts in other systems to help you like edit your stuff?
Well, yeah, that's why. I mean, the reason why we're not going to be able to do it initially is because we are such a small operation. It's just the two of us.
Yeah.
We just don't have the power to do all these multiple things at once. So what we'll be doing is finding people who are well versed in the systems to convert them. So we'll be hiring freelancers to take care of the heavy lifting on that one. And
is there any juice in system agnostic or not?
I mean, yeah, but honestly, I don't know. Maybe we've had people say, your stuff is a lot of our like settings already and stuff are fairly system agnostic. Like it would be really easy to take out any of the 5th edition mechanics that you didn't want to use. So I'm sure that a system agnostic version of anything would be pretty easy to do. And this is just me, I haven't seen a lot of incredibly popular system agnostic pools to put stuff in. And if you're going to invest resources in paying someone to convert something or something, you kind of want to hope that things are going to work out like they did for Lewis, where people are going to be buying more of it rather than you're just paying for nothing, basically.
I just don't know if there's a market for system agnostic, because nobody goes, I want a system agnostic product. They don't go looking for it, so it doesn't walk into them easily.
Actually, there's a guy I know, Raging Swan, who does system agnostic stuff, and he's been doing it forever. And I've always been like, how's this guy making any money? But I mean, he's been around for a very long time, so much to go like, I guess there's a fan base for it. And I think, the more creative people have time. I want the cool idea, and I'll put it to whatever system I want. So I guess that works in theory. I know for myself, I'm really weird about this. It's like, I'll play it. In theory, you can port things over. What I do is go, I'm done with this project. We're gonna do another project.
Yeah.
It's like I did modern as D20 modern. I said, I don't want to port this over to Spycraft. We're gonna do fantasy. I started doing D20 fantasy, and I did 2 settings on that. One was a post-apocalyptic horror, and one was like sci-fantasy. And then when Pathfinder said, "Oh, we're going to 2nd edition," I'm like, I'm not doing anything on that. Let me go over here so we can do some stuff with Mutants and Masterminds. And it's like, I don't.
So does this had any effect on your business then, do you think? I mean, it's a good question, I think.
You're already way smarter than we are.
I'm a whore. I told you, I whore myself out to whoever's there. It's like, because it's like when you fall in love with the system, that's what gets you in trouble. Just fall in love with your world and make it wherever you want to make it, and you have a great time. Because then all of a sudden, oh my God, I got all this IP and I got all this stuff, and it's funny. I have 2 fantasy campaign settings, and I'm like, one of them I converted for Pathfinder, and I did a little 5e stuff, and one of them we did a little even less 5e. And I keep saying, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just sell it off to somebody. I'll take a percentage, just get the money coming in. I'll give them all the artwork and say, it's yours. You can do whatever you want. Just pay a percentage every month, and we'll be good. And it's like, oh, that's not a bad idea either. Because, I mean, there's somebody out there who's probably would love to have a campaign world already done, the artwork already done for them, something they can jump on, and at least if they do even kind of good, they can develop it themselves. Or you find your fan who loves your thing the most, that you want to say, like, I'm done with it. You go take it. Just pay me a percentage. I'm good. And go to town and let them try to be a publisher. And if it doesn't work out, you can be like, oh, here's your stuff back. I'm like, okay, well, great, thanks, no problem, no harm, no foul.
So do you think that WotC is going... Here's one thing that I think WotC learned as a really hard lesson. The DM is the gateway to the players. So I know there's been a conversation or something about AI DMs for low-level play. I also think there's potential for them, if they get everybody to go to D&D Beyond or whatever their new VTT is, to maybe create certifications for DMs. That way they can charge DMs to be DMs, and they'll be charging players to be players. Do you think that there's a way WotC can remove the gateway, which is the DM, and make it where everybody's just paying to play?
I think that's the bigger problem. It's like, because the DM buys all the content.
Yeah, everything.
We got 7 people around the table. One person buys everything.
Yeah, players might buy a player handbook.
Even with
that's
D&D
it.
Beyond, even with D&D Beyond, because you're the one who has to content share with all of them because you make the campaign.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a way out of that unless they are going to go the video game route. If you're going to have, and that works perfect. It's like, great, I got my character and I get stuff, and that's why I pay you. And I can understand that aspect, but at the same time, it's like, I'm going to say, instead of trying to get some people to pay $20 a month. Okay, so I have a problem when people talk about PDFs and what they pay. I don't believe PDF should be more than $10, at the maximum $20. Because, as a buddy of mine was telling me, you're selling them light. You're not even selling them paper. You're selling them light. So how in the world are you charging this much? Oh, the cost is much to get the artwork. Yeah, but you don't got to print it.
And also, it's already out there and it's free. Somebody's uploaded it somewhere.
Right. And it's like, so like, for myself, I talk about low cost PDFs. There should be a lot of, if you're starting out company, you should have $2 PDFs, putting them out there making money. And I don't think that should be a problem. And I've done that on everything I've ever done. We built the entire world $2 at a time. And then eventually we say, oh, let's put it all together and let's make some more stuff. And then you can run with it. I think the barrier of entry needs to be so low, people can't say no to it.
Mm.
If somebody says no to it, it's too high. You know, $2 a month is not a bad barrier. No one's saying, I'll pay $2.
Yeah.
That's less than a Slurpee. Come on, I can't beat that. $5. Okay, $5 a little bit of money, but that's not gonna kill me.
It's less than Starbucks.
$10, what happens? You know, it's like $10 is where the moment people go, I don't know,
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Players especially.
$9.99.
Right.
$9.99.
But I mean, there's a problem in general with the cooperative nature of all of it. It's just like one person buys one thing, they need to then share it with 5 people in some way, and if it's especially if it's gatekeeped in any way where they can't just share that PDF, you know, then everyone's buying stuff, and you know, so there's always that issue. And I mean, as far as the dump in the DM thing, I mean, I guess they could turn they have their adventures written. They could just turn those into, you know, VTT video games. But at that point, you're playing a video game. You're not playing a tabletop game anymore.
Yeah.
The DM is a crucial part of what I think a tabletop is, except not exactly. People write DM-less systems. So like, I think if they want to do DM-less for D&D, then you're right. The VTT path with the adventures written into it, where there's modulated system where it gives you everything and you roll into it. That's where they're going to go if they want to reduce. But they're still trying to get 5 people to all pay for a single adventure in order to run it, unless they're going to allow content sharing where one person buys in, 5 people can just have a subscription on the VTT and play in it.
But are we still even making TTT? I mean, we're making role-playing games. We're not...
Exactly. They're not tabletops anymore. They're role-playing games.
That's where I think they're trying to go. I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they have looked at the current environment, and they've looked at where people are going, they've looked at who their real competitors are, and it's not anyone in TTRPGs, and I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to turn it into a hybrid experience that is less hybrid than we're probably thinking of right now.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Sorry. It's gone. Well, no, it's back.
But it was a very dramatic pause.
As far as like their business case for going, we've got one guy paying for everything, we want to charge everybody. Like, there is a price point where they could do that. And there is like a service they could offer where it is sufficiently rad where it's like, I could probably find 5 rubes to play this game with me. Yeah. I don't know what those features are, and I don't know what that price point is. But I don't think that there's ever going to be an instance where people are playing the AI, solo Dungeon Master online thing rather than playing D&D. Because I saw people on Twitter talking about this, which I shouldn't pay attention to, but they were going like they're trying to take our jobs, the Dungeon Masters say, and I think those people just overestimate how fun D&D is. D&D isn't that fun. Like it's kind of stupid. But like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is 4 hours of our day. Come on, if you want real fun, hanging out with all your mates around the table and having beers. So any solution that WotC come up with that removes the social aspect of you specifically hanging out with people that you know and you like and having fun with them, like that's just, whatever that is, that won't compete with tabletop RPGs. That's a different thing.
It won't compete with us, but it will compete with the new crowd they're going to be pulling in, who's like, I watched Critical Role, and I'll never get to play with these people, but this month, if I upgrade, I get to play with Caliph in an encounter, and I get to do something. You know what I mean? You get to...
Or like a voice-acted, modulated system where it's like...
Yeah. And then
we
I don't
got
care
Matt
that I'm
Mercer
not playing
to
with
read
my
the directions.
grubby friends. I get to play with the fuckers that I'm watching for 4 hours a week online.
Yeah,
so
that's creepy.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody in there right on camera go, I think I'm changing my mind on something.
That's so creepy because like that's tapping into, look, we've got all these D&D influencers out there, these celebrities, people are forming these parasocial relationships with them, and D&D is a game that you specifically enjoy playing with friends. Hey buddy, Matt Mercer's your friend. He's voicing this goblin.
And that's why people watch Critical Role in these shows, because they look at how fun these people are having, and they think they're sitting next to them and having that fun too, or you're at least feeling the dopamine as if you were in the room as well. And and that's why, like, if you are a performer, you need to be having fun on stream, otherwise no one wants to watch you, and that's how eventually people want to play with you. And you're right, yeah, like we got Matt Mercer to narrate the DM flavor text boxes that we have in our adventures that are normally just suggestions, but now are the official text of the adventure, because it's only available on the VTT, or whatever. And like, if you want to have go retro and have one of your friends narrate it, but we have
right. It's like a co-DM where the co-DM is the AI rather than replacing the DM. It's a support DM.
Yeah.
This made me think of something. I mean, I either it's late or I'm just messed out of my mind. I'm like, you could use AI voices to do the text talking parts in your adventures and just attach it to it.
Yep.
And that's not going to cost you a lot of money, and people would never know the difference. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you bought this game. There's a digital download that comes with it that'll have a voice acted or an AI voice acted part for every single one of the descriptions.
Right.
So you don't have to do it, which is very enticing for people who are just playing this with their friends at the table, because they're not voice actors, they're not performers, and they know that they're nervous to DM because they don't want to have to do the voices. And guess what? Wizards has provided voices.
We may have just invented a new business model, or told WotC how to do it wrong or right. I'm not sure which it is. All right. Well, we've reached the end of the night, and I did want to give all of you a chance to shout yourselves out and tell everybody how awesome you are and where they can find you. I will drop your links in while you're doing it. I want everybody to find you. Why don't we go backwards from where we were before? Let's start with Matty P.
What up? My name's Matty P. I'm in Australia and I'm making D&D content. Literally today, wait, when is this going live? When is this?
It's live.
When is this
what day is this? It's Sunday.
So is this getting... Okay. Okay, I don't know how time conversion works. Literally at some point, you're going to get a video from me all about the new starter set. It's coming out tomorrow or today or the next day. I don't know where we are in time zone wise. My tag is @HeyIt'sMattyP, literally everywhere. And yeah, I publish stuff on Patreon as well. That's my main jam. I don't have anything else to say. It's been a long stream, but I've had fun.
All right, Sean, you hop in.
Hi everybody, my name is Sean O'Donovan. I am the creative director over at Paradise Productions. You can find us on Twitch at Paradise Prod, and you can find us on Twitter at Paradise Pro. But we are an actual play streaming channel, and we produce shows, we run our campaigns, we do all sorts of stuff. Occasionally we do other programming as well. I often will do crafting or cartography or map making or mini painting. Especially now that I have a 3D printer, there's going to be a bunch of that this year. So check us out, nerdy fun, and yeah, and you know what? You pay me and I'll voice act your D&D session. You pay me and I'll just come by and you give me the text and I'll just start doing the voices. I'll do the voices. You don't have to get wizards to do it. I'll do the voices.
All right, Lewis, that was awesome.
Hi, I'm Lewis Porter Jr. eating some ice. You can find me online at LPJ Design everywhere. Like I said, I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm just looking to have fun. My biggest thing would be if there's any artists out there looking to do some stock art, I am more than happy to get you guys set up to not exploit you, but get you paid the right way.
In fact, I know one artist. I sent one to you, and she's been very happy, I think, with everything she's got. I think it's been very cool. If you're a creator, if you need to go on to drive-through and look up LPJ Design, their stock library is huge. A lot of different artists. I mean, the biggest one you have, I guess, is Storn Cook. That's probably the biggest number of pieces. I don't know if it's maybe Matt Forsyth is bigger, maybe as far as the name.
I think Storn is. I mean, I've been working with Storn forever and a day. Storn. I've been a fan of Storn when he was working for Hero Games, so it's like it's become my dream that I'm working with him now as my company.
Right. Cool. All right, Jess.
I am Jess Pendley, one half of Underground Oracle Publishing. You can find us on Patreon, Underground Oracle. We are creating settings for the Cypher system. So we're about to release our first quick start for Horror the Blighted Plane. It's crystal punk fantasy in a fallen world, and you can get on the ground floor for just $3 per month. That's criminally awesomely low. So check us out.
It's not $9.99, just under that 10 mark.
It is. 3 is the perfect number. Although we do offer up to $8, so I don't want to dissuade you from that.
Yeah.
And I'm Scott or Zeal. This is our premiere episode of Story Talk. We hope I have one almost every week for the whole year planned out, with about the first half of the year is mostly fully booked. I think I have one seat here or there. So if you're interested in joining us for a talk, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We will see you next week, although weirdly, I didn't plan on it being Super Bowl Sunday, but I'm still going to stream because it's freaking Super Bowl Sunday, and I already planned it. So I hope to see you here, because not everybody's into football, into sports ball or whatever they call it. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We will see you in a week. Bye.